You've tuned into the Bellingham Podcast for the week of Christmas Eve, December 24, 2017, episode 61. From the city by the Salish Sea, I am AJ Barcet.
And from O Little Town of Bellingham, I am Chris Powell. On this episode, we're going to take a look back at some trends and ideas that shaped 2017. Buckle up, folks. It won't be that bad, but we'll have a good time. Merry Christmas to all, and to all, an awesome podcast. This is the Bellingham Podcast.
You're in a festive cheer.
Fa la 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 la, amigo. Merry Christmas in advance.
Happy Hanukkah.
And all that other good stuff. So yes, let's get this rolling because we got a lot to talk about.
We do. So in years past, you may remember that the last episode of the year for our show, we typically do a ghost of Christmas past, Christmas present, Christmas future. We kind of rewrote it a little bit for this year, but it is a two-parter, folks. So we're going to leave you on a cliffhanger, and we will see you at the beginning of 2018 with the sequel of the show.
That's right. And so we'll be talking about some ideas and some topics, and kind of let you take a week or so or two to ruminate about how we'll finish this up.
Yeah. And also, this is the last episode for the Bellingham Podcast for 2017. So if you're noticing in the feed after this week that there is none, that's fine. We'll be back the first weekend-ish of 2018.
That's right. And once again, thank you for all of y'all who are downloading us and adding us to your podcast app and rating us on whatever podcast medium you are using. We do appreciate it. We love you, and we're glad you're along for the ride.
Yeah, and every one of you, thank you so much. Like, our show has grown exponentially. I think I did the math, and we're about 3x from last year.
That's pretty impressive.
We're in the five figures of downloads. We're doing great, and it's all because people like you are listening to our show. And we've gotten so much response back. Like, I want to give a couple of shout outs because there's so many of you, but there are a few that religiously give us shout outs or leave your mark. Obviously Danny the Rising Sun Sailor, who,
hey Danny.
Hey Danny. He's always in the community talking about us and talking to us. North of the border, Daryl. I did an interview with him from the DGR earlier this year.
The Gentleman's Ride.
Daryl
from the Gentleman's Ride.
Yes.
That's right. Yes.
Thanks, guys up north. You guys are great, and also our listeners in Japan. Like, I showed you our stats, and we have quite a few. I'm guessing Seikoholics.
It's a wonderful thing, and thank you again. And it's great to have a conversation that usually doesn't involve a whole lot of vitriol.
Yeah.
And there is humor, and we try to keep it a little bit lighthearted.
Yeah.
And accessible. But I think we got a couple things that are going to get on the serious side.
Yeah, well, for this episode.
Yeah.
And then also Jen here in Bellingham, thank you so much for listening. And everybody else in Bellingham, and the joke that you and I have off the mic, we're also big in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Sup, Sri Lanka.
Hello, Sri Lanka. That's right.
But before we get to the serious topics, let's take a look at what we did. Let's start the show like we normally do.
I took a look back instead of what's new. I'm always coming up with something, and rolling the dice, see what happens, what sticks, and everything. Just enjoying creating content as it is, thinking about rejiggering my online brand.
Yeah.
And we don't need to talk about that because there's plenty of podcasts for you to listen to how to optimize
your
and level
social
up
marketing and branding experience
and push the needle on your online brand, blah, 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 whatever. Anyway, I took a look back at our podcast.
Yeah.
And there were a couple clips that I was really like our proud moments.
Yeah.
And there were two that I was really proud of, and they happened fairly recently. If you go to the show notes, got a couple links in there that with the magic of YouTube links, you can click on 5 Rules for Computer Techs and the Pacific Northwest Sandlot and go straight to it. So you didn't have to use the dial to try to figure out where is this. It goes straight to it. So I really had a couple highlights that I was proud of. And AJ, you had a couple as well from the history standpoint.
Yeah, no, I was really proud this year of the story I did of the Marine Nationale history. Right when I got that Erica's original watch strap, I just thought that one turned out it sounded good. My research was pretty good, and I got a lot of comment from the watch community from that episode, which I thought was really cool. And then the Eddie Bauer history bit. Just again, I had some people comments like, I did not know Puffy Jacket Guy was Eddie Bauer. I just thought it was cool. It was just those two bits was kind of my highlight for this last year.
Absolutely. So as far as where we've been, that's a good place to start. Real quick, I want to do a little bit of helpful tips.
Yeah.
As we are in the season of frosty windshields and cold weather mornings to get to work. You got your morning commute, and I found a couple things that have helped me out, and I just want to share them with you because I've had stress in firing up the car and scraping the windshield with that. But there's a couple secret weapons that I have in my auto trunk arsenal.
TrunkTech.
Here we go. I don't have a theme for it. I'll come up with one later. But anyway, kids, if you go to your auto parts store, you're going to look for a yellow bottle. So this yellow bottle is golden. In a lot of ways.
There it is.
There it is. And it's a Prestone windshield de-icer. And for about $5, you get yourself it looks like a Windex bottle, but it's yellow. And what you do is you spray it on your frosted up windshield, and it magically, and I don't own stock in this company, and this is not an infomercial, but I giggle as I have my car starting up in the morning. I spray my windshields, and I don't have to scrape.
Yeah.
I hit my windshield wipers once, foomp, foomp, and it's all taken care of, and I'm off and rolling. And for the side windows and other things like that, great. It's your driver's best friend for $5. Also, if you go on that wonderful website we talk about a lot,
Amazon,
or you could probably find it in some stores, maybe Hardware Sales or Jaeger's around town. I haven't really checked theirs, but there is a windshield cover that some of you may have windshield covers to be able to block the snow and ice. But what I like about this one, and I have a link to the one I got from Amazon, and no, there's not an affiliate link because I don't give a rip about that. I want you to have fun and save some minutes during the day. It has magnets on it, so it won't blow away. Magnets on the top and bottom so that above the windshield and below the windshield on the hood, it's fairly secure. And then to prevent people from kind of stealing it and taking off with it, there are additional extendo flaps that can go inside your car door. So not only are you magnetized and prepared, it's also inside your car door, about $23. This will save you a good 10 minutes in the morning. And if I could save you 10 minutes in the morning, that almost turns into an hour a week that I could save you from the stress of having to scrape, and having to do all that for your winter stuff. A little bit of TrunkTech. Merry Christmas.
So it's a tea cozy for your windshield.
Pretty much, yes. That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, that Prestone bottle. You left me a bottle last year when I was stuck. You dropped me off so I could get into my rig. And man, it was one of the coldest days that we had in Bellingham last year. And you're just like, here. And I'm like, dude, I don't like using this stuff. He goes, no, it's not. Just try it. Just trust me. Keep it. Don't worry about it. And you're right. Like you squirt. You wait like maybe 30 seconds, thump, thump, and you're on your road.
Yep.
I was impressed.
And it's all about the thump, thump.
Oh, the thump, thump. I'm all about that thump, thump.
Let's get to our main topic.
So the main topic, again, this is the ghost of Christmas past, Christmas present, Christmas future, or as we like to do it this year, trends of 2017, past, current, and what we're keeping our eye on.
Exactly.
Now, at the top of this, it is hard to hit on some of these topics without, at least here in the United States, some of these topics may be politically fueled. However, we are not going to be talking about the politics around it. We don't care. We're just going to focus on the core issues that underlie these topics. And you'll understand a little bit when we get into some of them, but it's just trends that we saw from 2017 that got politically charged. But we are not a news or political commentary show, nor do we play one on podcast. But if we did,
we could probably do it better than them.
We could probably do it better. But no, it's just full disclosure at the top of the show. So starting it off, early in 2017, one of the things I saw, which we highlighted several times on the show, the whole crowdsourcing thing just blew up again this year.
This is a way for people to be able to, it's not just whatever big company is going to be providing a product for us to deal with. This is people actually having a say in what is being done.
Right. And here's the other thing that I noticed this year is with especially with Kickstarters, like we saw Peak Design, we saw a handful of them where these are established brands, established companies that did get their start on Kickstarter, go back to Kickstarter to first offer their product at a discount, but also because that's where their community started and that's where they fostered. And at first I thought it was a cheap shot. I'm not going to lie. Like originally, really, you're going back to Kickstarter because full disclosure, I'm a Patreon creator and I have an issue with like Big's using the platform for people to be the up and comers.
They're taking the spotlight from the independents. Right.
But then my ideology shifted a little bit for some of these companies, because that is where, if it wasn't for that platform, they would not be where they're at. Mm-hmm. And it took me a little bit to shift my brain that way. But I found it really cool. Like Peak Design went back and offered a product that I have, which is their Peak Capture Clip. I think it's the third generation one, which is like 30% smaller, 50% heavier duty, whatever. But they offered it as an early bird discount and stuff back to the community that got them where they're at. And I thought that was really cool. Going into 2018, I think this is going to be a continuing trend, but also creators really found their stride in Patreon this year. Patreon has been, as a creator, like I've seen on the back side of the back end of it, so many more tools, analytics, understanding why people come in or come out of patronage, the fee ratings and stuff of, like, for instance, as a creator, I get 95% of all the stuff that I make on Patreon. And, Jack Conte, if you ever listen to our show, I think you're the goods. You're doing a fine job trying to get more creators the ability to monetize our art and not peddling it for ad revenue. And I appreciate that. And it's hard. Like, it's ebb and flow, just like any other artistry. Like sometimes I'll have, I'll have 15 patrons. Some months I'll have 7. But it's just really cool to be able to say, hey, if you like what you see, support me on Patreon. And people do. And whether it's a one-time flash in the pan or, I have some patrons that have been there since day one, like yourself. It's a really cool feeling as a creator to finally feel like, one, there's people that support you, but 2, believe in what you do as an artist.
Absolutely. And from a customer standpoint, or, I'm a customer of Patreon. I support a select few awesome creators on Patreon. and something happened recently involving Patreon and how they handled payments, auto payments, where they set a news release and it got a little bit of friction from the responders. But here's the thing. I received an email with a subject line that said, "We screwed up. We're sorry." And blah, blah, blah.
Signed Jack Conte.
Signed from the big CEO. Kahuna.
Yeah.
And I want to give a tip of the hat to the man in charge, or the person in charge, for voicing thank you for not talking to me like I know what business speak sounds like. Yeah. Talking to me like I'm a person, not like I'm 5. But hey, we tried this out, didn't work. We hear you. We're going to retool things to try to, and thank you for continuing to support your artists on Patreon. And I'm like, that will fuel me a lot more than a cookie cutter canned antiseptic communique from some business that is completely 5 levels removed from its client base. Yeah. And I just wanted to at least mention that. Patreon is something we've talked about since episode 1. And I think that it's worth your time in 2018. If you haven't understood fully what it's like to buy something from Kickstarter or one of these crowdfunding websites, it's not that bad. And to go on Patreon and see, oh yeah, I've heard of that person. Well, it's like that Creedence Clearwater Revival song, Down on the Corner. Bring a nickel, tap your feet. Right. Willie and the Poor Boys are playing down the street. I messed up the lyrics. But anyway, you get the point. Throw a couple bucks. You don't really need that $5 Frappa Lappuccino at the coffee shop. Dedicate it to someone else, throw them some cashola, and watch things prosper as a result. Yeah. And whether or not you get something in return, you're doing something good. Right. So that's my, that's my soapbox. Thanks very much.
I like that soapbox. Also in 2017, this is, I think, more of your bit. Athletes getting hit hard.
Yeah, unfortunately, you check any news article and you'll see lots of. The state of professional sports is one where there's a whole lot of injuries going on right now. And in the current season of the professional sport that we're, during this recording, there's a lot of hard hits. And my heart goes out to these professional athletes that are getting injured, whether it's from a headshot, concussion, or a tore up knee. I can speak from experience on that. That is, and the turnaround time that professional athletes are expected to get back on the field is not. I would disagree with that, but it's a $1 billion industry,
right?
And it makes me wonder, with my attention that I'm dedicating 3 hours of my life to observing an event in which I'm seeing 4 athletes, 4 people getting injured and being carted off the field, or going to a commercial break as they're lying there motionless on the field. I'm wondering when it will reach its peak of concern, in which society will be like, okay, this is not good. This needs a change, and I hope that it won't get to a place where some of these non-top tier athletes are going to be suffering brain issues, are going to be suffering behavioral issues and other things, and also financial issues, because they probably did not sock away some fundage and they are in a really rough shape. And I just hope that in 2018, at least if I can say it here, maybe there'll be some others that are in line with that they may be able to take a look at professional sports and around the water cooler, talk to those that align with certain professional sports teams to say, hey, there are people behind the uniforms.
Yeah.
So,
and there's a lot of other trends that came out of athletics this last year, but again, they're politically fueled, kind of assuaging that. But yeah, when you get down to it, athletes are people. For all of the hits and the pay issues that we're seeing,
and the bravado,
and the pompousness. Here's the other thing: is I'm hoping going forward that the athletic side of things, the business side of athletics, kind of gets an more even playing field, if I can say that, because not all players in certain games of like whether football, American football, or international football, or whatever, like different leagues get paid different things, and there are leagues. Like there are football leagues where there is some awesome football, American style, being played, and those players are not getting paid.
Nope.
And I find that, I don't know, doesn't sit well with me.
Hopefully in 2018, this is what we talk about all the time. Take a look and examine and reevaluate and reassess what you are dedicating your time to.
Yeah.
Yes, Sunday afternoons and sometimes Thursday evenings and sometimes Monday nights can be dedicated must-see TV. You're spending 3 hours in front of the television watching the same commercials over and over again.
What are you supporting?
And what is your time going to? What are you dedicating this portion of your life to? Yes, it's entertainment. Yes, it's enjoyment. And yes, it's a social experience. Hopefully you're not eating too much crap food.
That's another bit.
Yeah, exactly. We'll talk about that one later. But there's, when it comes to professional sports, up here in Bellingham, we have a couple semi-pro teams around, and
that's what I was thinking. Like, everybody enjoys the Bells here locally.
Yep.
Like, whether you're a baseball fan or not, you spend the $10 for a ticket or whatever.
If that.
Yeah, and it's just fun. And those players, I don't even know if they get a stipend. A lot of them are college age young men that are staying with families up here in Bellingham while they are playing their games. Yeah.
And it's a community kind of thing. The local sports around here for the Bellingham Bells and others that we might have, whether it be hockey or perhaps basketball or other types of sports, maybe the football semi-pro league that we have going on, that is where you can take your cashola, and it's a fairly economical way of having a family outing.
Right.
And going to see some college-level soccer, college-level basketball. The university here in Bellingham has some national champions, folks. Not sure if you're aware of that.
Yeah.
There's been some titles in NCAA Division II. What a great way to not to watch it on TV, but to watch it live, to also support your local community. And you'll see them in the grocery store. You'll see them around town. What a great way to reconfigure how you would be able to enjoy your sports entertainment in 2018.
Yeah. When you put that bit in, it made me really think, Chris, because, having a little one, watching American football on TV and thinking do I want my son to aspire to be that? And I don't know. It just doesn't sit well with me.
It's a tough one, and we get it. If there are those that are grooming their kids to be professional athletes, and I think that's great. You go for it, and you go for it. But we got to be aware of where things are headed as far as how professional athletes are treated, and how the bosses may not be taking care of the work or the medical situation.
So,
moving on.
The beginning of 2017, everybody was all abuzz of this. I mean, this is something that has been for the last probably 5 years. Fast food versus eating at home. Fast food versus slow food is commonly where it's referred to if you're in the agricology ecosystem. But this year we saw Blue Apron, a darling of the tech sphere, do an initial public offering and then immediately it was up and down. And if you're not familiar with Blue Apron or these type of services, basically they have pre-portioned ingredients that you basically have a subscription to. They send you the ingredients and voila, you have good, clean, fresh food that you make at home.
Cook it up.
Shake and bake.
That's right.
But what's interesting is out of this, we also saw a lot of Me Too's. This was the year of the Me Too. We had Fred Meyer Clickist. We had Uber Eats. And these are a little bit different because basically you order food. So like in the case of Fred Meyer, like you use their app and basically they put your groceries together, you pay online, and then you swing in and somebody comes out and brings out your groceries. Uber Eats is a little bit different where basically you're using Uber Eats for them to send a driver to pick up your food. Here locally, we have a company that does that already locally called Viking Foods.
Yes.
I've used them. Love them. I think you're the goods. You've saved my bacon many a times as a new parent. Just saying.
Yes.
But I don't know. Like this is a trend where I see the convenience of it, and there's a little bit of a fee to have that convenience. And like I said, as a new parent, when you have, you're away from work and you're taking care of your little one and your wife or spouse, they were a lifesaver. I mean, Viking Foods, I called them, they'd deliver boomers or whatever I needed. It was great. But at the flip side of this, do I really need to do all of my grocery shopping on, I don't know. Where do you sit on this, Chris? Like, do you use Amazon Fresh or anything like that?
There are services out there that are geared towards convenience and to have the opportunity cost of not having to go through an hour in the grocery store and get cart rage with so many people, trying to find and discern the decision fatigue that you see with what jar of peanut butter should I get. My wife and I have made the decision that we shop here in Bellingham, and we are manual shoppers, if you will. And because, I think we're still in the mindset that we want to get eyes on the produce that we're seeing. We're eyes on as far as price comparisons. And while Blue Apron has a great business model, and Amazon Fresh is how they purchased Whole Foods this year as well, there's more emphasis in getting into the food market and what you're stuffing in your mouth. I think speaking for myself and for my family, we're trying to be frugal to make our dollar push farther, and we're looking for the deals.
Yeah.
And
coupons.
That too, but also just be really mindful. My wife, God bless her, she plans out meals ahead of time in the week, and so therefore our shopping list includes the ingredients that will go into Tuesday night's meal, Thursday's lunch, whatever have you. And it's a dedicated time, and we don't have time in this society, or maybe we need to take a step back. What are we spending our time on?
I was just going to go there, Chris.
Yeah, I know. I hear you. I'm watching your facial expressions now. But at least, you asked me the question. I haven't kicked into Blue Apron because I'm not a fan of monthly fees for that.
Yeah.
When we have this alternative available in town that we can bring our recyclable bags to load stuff in, and we have a week's worth of shopping that we do. I will say this: if you are really strapped for time and you are a hard worker and you have a toddler that is occupying a whole lot of time, the convenience of having your food delivered to you in your car, when you budget 15 minutes and you can do this online during a break, that's pretty convenient, and I'm all for that. If you are having a tough time with managing time and getting that time to be able to wander up and down the aisles.
Yeah.
My family is not in that situation, but I know that there are those that would love that opportunity. Fred Meyer's got your hookup.
Right.
If you really don't have the time or just don't feel like it, and I know I'm with you, after a day you are mentally exhausted, you're physically exhausted from pulling that 8-hour shift. You don't want to have to prepare 40, 45 minutes of food. Okay, Uber Eats, Viking food, Viking delivery, Viking food. Viking Foods. They got your hookup. It's a great way to have someone help out with your dinner meal plans.
Yeah. And I just, the other thing that we saw in this year is, you already hit it, Amazon buying Whole Foods. So, I mean, if Amazon's getting into this, we can see that this is going to be a trend coming up, where there's going to be this, I hate to use this as a verb, but the Amazonification of the grocery store.
Yeah.
You know, they I believe in Seattle, they had a test, I think a Skunk Works grocery store this year, where basically you already pay for everything online and you walk in, grab the stuff that you want and walk out, or that you already paid for. I kind of like that idea, as opposed to like the whole, like everybody else puts it in the bag for you, short of, again, new parent or whatever the case may be, disabilities, like you can't get out. Like I see a lot of avenues where this does fit in, outside of like the whole lazy factor, like I just don't want to do it. But the other part of this that I want to put in the show is something that I've seen in recent years is people are, and I admit my wife is a listener of the show, so she's going to know this is me. This is my wife talking. People are so far removed of where food comes from.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm concerned about this tech trend. People don't know where their meat comes from or how meat is processed, butchered, the ethics around that, all that other jazz. You're welcome, honey. But again, I don't want this to be another step of us being removed of how food is, from farm to market produced, and then another step removed where we just have to follow a recipe. Like there's something to be said of being able to smell something or taste something and go, that needs more paprika. You know, it's kind of a culinary stuff is kind of a lost art, or it's becoming a lost art. And I'm hoping this only having prefab stuff, pre-portioned stuff just awakens more youths to cooking, not brainlessly just, I'll just follow this as a robot. And
for 1 month, my wife and I both went through a meal alternative meal plan called Whole30. It was a diet that blah blah blah. Go ahead and check a previous episode.
We didn't have a link for that one.
Yeah, and so, but here's the thing. My takeaway from that is I lost weight. We spent just about as much money because we're not eating out. That money eaten out was spent in the grocery store for the stuff. But the amount of time it took to prepare meals ahead of time, so you don't have to revert to the other non-Whole30 meals, that took a lot of time. And I think we're dancing around this issue, and we could talk about this later on, that time is, one, our enemy. Two, it's the most valuable commodity we have, let alone other than air. And water, but how we are spending our time needs to get reconfigured, reevaluated in 2018, because we're spiraling into this orbit that is removing us from being able to do what is good for ourselves. Yeah. And either we're following along what others are doing and marching in the parade, but we're sacrificing parts of our lives. Well, and money too. I mean, myself included. I did a kitchen remodel. I like to cook, Chris. I'm half Italian. Yes. Okay, much like yourself. Yes. Like, I love being in the kitchen. And I know so many people that remodel their house, remodel their kitchens, but they don't cook. It's just a Pinterest pin that they're living through. Yeah. And I'm like, you have this beautiful butcher block that you've never butchered on. We should appreciate how food is made, where it comes from, and what we're putting into ourselves. That's how I'm going to end that. Can I at least put a postscript? Sure. Pull a pin on a conversational grenade. Hey, folks, check out your monthly debit card spending for 1 month. Let's just say the month of December. Add up how much you spent eating out, and use that in proportion. How much of your paycheck went to eating out? Now, it's a social activity. It's entertainment. If you're single, you got to do this as part of the courtship period of relationships. Got it. If you're with families and your friends, this is part of your social activity. Yeah. Crunch the numbers. See how much you're spending per month. And what if you were to take that and just downshift 1 time less a week? I'm going to prepare something at home, even if it's you throw something in a skillet. The financial part may awaken you a little bit. And I had a bit of an awakening as well because, my family's not above the standard. That's right. No, we dedicated a portion of our monthly budget to that eating out. In 2018, maybe not just slow food, but also taking time to think in what is important. How can we ratchet down a little bit?
Well, yeah. And also as a family, cook. Like that historically and anthropologically speaking, like we should be gathering around the table. No, let me rephrase that. We in American culture typically gravitate around the table around holidays. We need to gravitate around the kitchen and have it be an all family thing. That way more generations understand where their food is coming from. And I'm getting on my soapbox for my wife because she is a big food nut.
There you go.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. Lifestyle brands.
Yes.
We don't just make products anymore. We make a lifestyle.
Of course, because that's how you gain someone to come back and buy stuff from you.
Right. It's not about... And that is where we're going to leave you here on the Bellingham Podcast in 2017. Be sure you tune into the conclusion because you don't want to miss things like one of the things as technologists, and I'm putting my objective hat on here as a technologist. We hear this all the time where social media drains me, or I have to just get off of Facebook for a while. Matter of fact, and when we rejoin you in 2018, you'll hear a little bit more on the topic of...
I did an experiment. I wanted to see what the process was because, in most cases, I'll go first. Yeah. I'll take the bullet so I can tell you about it. Well, I invested a little bit of money in cryptocurrency, and I started to get really... So as we're closing out 2017, we want to thank you for rating us and listening to us and downloading us off your favorite podcast app, whether it's the Apple Podcast app, the Google Play Store, checking us out on SoundCloud.com or Spreaker.com.
Or Chris's favorite, TuneIn.
That's right, AJ, TuneIn.com. So happy New Year coming up in 2018, and we will see you next time on the Bellingham Podcast.